Hello! Upcrate very kindly sent me another mystery box for free. This is number 33. It is from May 2022. I got this in September. It is now October 2022, so I better get into it and check out what's inside. So the last one I received, I think, was from March, and that was in a purple box, so they've changed their packaging sometime since then, and now it comes looking like this. I have a feeling they might have sent this to me as one of their back issues because they only posted this out maybe a couple of months ago, not actually in May or before then, so I'm pretty sure they might have a few spare ones and they send them out to people like me to try them out. I don't mind. I'm always happy to open a mystery box full of art supplies, so let me get my little palette knife here and we'll get it open. Let's get ready to think, get creative, paint, draw, be happy, and share your artwork. Think outside the box. Ooh, disco party. And here's the inside of the box. It's very similar to the ones they previously had, it's just a different colour. I quite like this colour scheme. It's very clashing, but I do like it. So in here we've got the supplies and their magazine bottle post. There's also some artwork and stickers, which are some of my favourite parts of these boxes. Interesting. I like the colour scheme that they have. Once again, very much orange and purples. In the bottom here we have some paper. It looks like there are 3 sheets. It feels like a 300 GSM watercolour paper to me. I hope it's cotton. We'll find out soon when I look in the magazine. But first of all, let's just open up this package. Always my favourite part. Ooh, okay, there's some cool looking stuff in here. First of all, I have to pick up this Windsor and Newton Ink. I do not have any of these ink bottles and I've always wanted to get some, so I'm very excited to get one, yay! I love the designs they have on them. This one is blue. Oh, I'm excited over that. And perfect timing opening this in October, being that it's Inktober. Not that I'm actually doing Inktober at all this year, but it's kind of fitting that we have an ink for this month. What else is in here? A water brush, of which I have many, but you can never have too many of these ones. And I like these ones that have the push button. It makes it easier to squeeze the water out. Then there's a really nice looking brush here. A Leonard Zero. It looks like a quill brush, actually. There we go. That's pretty. It's definitely a quill style brush, and it's got the metal wires around it. I like that. That's a nice one. It feels really smooth and shiny. And then we have 2 Van Gogh watercolor paints. They usually have something by Royal Talens in here. This one's Indian Yellow and Quinacridone Rose. And this last one, I'm curious to know what's in here, if anything. Okay, so it's paint dots on a card. That's so weird. Some of them have broken apart, which is kind of sad, but I will be having to check these out further in the magazine to see what this is all about. I'll just do a quick flip through of the magazine because I'm particularly curious about what these things are. So flipping through the magazine, the first thing I really wanted to see were these Scrim Paints, or Skyrim as I keep reading it. The colours in the set are Cosmic Wave, Ra Gold, Moondust, Osiris Red and Atlantis, with larger dots of Pacific Blue and Deep Orange. It's a German company, and I'm going to put their details in the description below because they've got some really interesting looking watercolour sets, and it looks like they have international shipping, which is great. Then we've got the Van Gogh colours, which are by Royal Talens, and they're really good. I've used quite a few of them now. The brushes that they have in here, a little bit of a write-up on those, and a page of Windsor and Newton inks. I'm not sure if everyone got the blue one or if there were random colours. The paper is Saunders Waterford, which is indeed 100% cotton, so I'm really happy about that. And then there are a few pages of the featured artist, and it would be pretty great to be featured in a magazine like this. I wonder what one has to do to get a feature in this magazine for a month. That would be really great. Although this thing always ends up arriving months later to Australia, so it's not really practical for me. But the magazine itself is quite large and there's a lot of information in here, art hacks, artist interviews, and write-ups of the featured art supplies, of course. I quite like this page, it's very pretty, although my colours are different because these ones are carmine and azo yellow, whereas in the box I have quinacridone rose and Indian yellow. I mean, they look very similar, so I'm not particularly bothered. I just thought that was an interesting little thing. I like the colour wheel thing there too. So I was hearing that they are charging extra for the magazine. I'm not sure if that's true or not. Let me know in the comments what you think of the Upcrates lately, because I am way behind here. At the back are Upcrate battle winners, and then the new prompt, which I completely forgot about in this video, and I did not use Let It Out at all. Oops! I found a tiny piece of Saunders Waterford paper in my stash, so I'll use this to test out everything and swatch it. Same paper as the ones that they provided. I'll use the pieces that they gave for the actual paintings. I think my favourite thing in this whole set is this Van Gogh Indian yellow. It's absolutely gorgeous. What a bright, beautiful colour. And the quinacridone rose, it took a little bit longer to activate, but it's a pretty colour too. It's very transparent, so maybe not quite as strong as that more opaque Indian yellow. They make a nice orange colour together, much like the colours in the magazine. And then I tried out some of the blue ink. This paper must be really old because that ink just sank right into it, so I have a suspicion that there's something wrong with the sizing on it. So we'll just kind of ignore that, but it is a very pretty blue colour, a phthalo blue I would say. And then going on to these Scrim Watercolors, a lot of them are wonderfully metallic and shiny. We have Raw Gold, Moon Dust, which was more of a silver colour, and then going down to Atlantis, I think, is the next one. My colours were in a different order to what was in the book, so I had to guess as to which one was which. I had let the paints soak with a bit of water on them because it just makes them a lot easier to activate. Shiny paints always take a bit longer, but these ones actually wet pretty well and I wasn't struggling with any of them. The two larger discs I think are more in their regular watercolour range, and they're nice too. I really like that Pacific Blue, a very bright phthalo blue. Again, interesting colour palette. This ink doesn't seem too happy on this particular piece of paper. Look, it's soaked all the way through, but I do quite like these shimmery ones. Here's some black watercolour paper. I'll just have to swatch these shiny ones out to see what they're like, because I always like to see them on black. As I suspected, they are pretty glorious on black paper. All of them shimmer beautifully, and they look to be high quality paints. I've started following Scrim so I can keep an eye out on their products. They've got some really interesting looking watercolours. They're not dry yet, but really pretty. Look at that shine. I love sparkly paints. So now I've got all of my swatches ready, I will have to come up with some paintings. I started with the Windsor and Newton Ink, and I decided to do one prompt from Inktober 22. So I'm doing the first one, which is gargoyle. I found a cute gargoyle figurine on Google Images, so I just decided to draw that. And the hilarious thing is that someone else did the exact same picture. I saw it while scrolling through Instagram. It's not exactly the same, obviously, because we've drawn our own interpretations, but I knew it was from that figurine. I couldn't stop laughing. I was thinking, I thought mine was going to be quite unique and cutesy, but clearly other people had the same idea. No matter. So I'm using the water brush to dip into the ink, and I wanted to save the quill brush for the watercolours. I always use separate brushes for ink. It's just something I do mainly to preserve my expensive watercolour brushes. Cheaper ones are fine for ink in this case. I had started painting the whole thing and then I decided to go around and outline it all. I'd done a very light pencil drawing and I'm just going over the top of everything with the ink. I found out that it's not exactly waterproof, it is more water resistant because some of it did reactivate even after it had dried. Both the ink and the water brush were very good. The ink is a nice colour, although it's more of a mid-tone blue, so I wasn't really able to get super dark areas. If it was more of an indigo colour, it would have been easier to get a transition from really dark to really light. But this phthalo blue didn't give quite as much of a range, and I think I just painted too much of the picture with it because it got really flat around this point, and I was thinking it just needs something else to lift it. The picture itself is pretty terrible. I was looking at it going, what am I doing here? I kind of wanted to start again, but because I only have 3 pieces of paper, I just kept persevering and I ended up with something eventually, although it's probably not my favourite thing I've ever drawn. It's kind of cute though. But I probably should have left well enough alone at this point. It actually looks quite nice like this now I'm looking at it on the video. But of course I couldn't help myself. I had to go in with far more colour. And at the moment I'm going over parts of the gargoyle with some of the shimmery Scrim paint. And this looked quite pretty over the top. I think it just gave it a bit more of a highlight and lifted it from being just all one flat colour. It was right around this point that I decided it needed something else, so I went in with the Indian yellow on that background. It is just so crazily bright. I don't know. Let me know in the comments, did I ruin the picture with this background? I can't decide. It's a nice colour. I mean, it does contrast well with the blue of the gargoyle, but of course I had to add in one of the other red colours that was in the Scrim set, and it merged in with the ink, so it kind of re-wet everything, and yeah, it was a bit of a disaster. I found that the blue disc of watercolour paper in the Scrim set was actually quite a bit darker though, so I'm using that blue watercolour over the top. And I'll admit I cheated a bit. I actually pulled out a black pen to line everything because it just needed it. I wasn't happy with it, so this pen I'm using is actually from a previous Upcrate. So it's still technically an Upcrate item, it's just from a different box. I felt like it needed whiskers, so now it looks like a hybrid of a gargoyle and a cat. A cat-goyle? Sure, that's totally what I intended this to be. I'm sticking with that story. And I even ended up signing my name on it. So here we have the finished masterpiece. Oh dear. Moving right along to a second picture, and this one I didn't use any pencils or anything. I am going directly onto the paper with the brush and painting in some loose roses using the 2 Van Gogh watercolour paints to begin with, and that lovely quill brush. I really enjoyed using the brush, and I think I had more fun with the watercolour paints today than the ink itself, although I really liked the Windsor and Newton ink, it just wasn't something I was feeling today. I also used that orange disc of paint to put in another little rosebud, so this one actually turned out quite nicely. Though once again I had to paint a background in, I can't help myself sometimes, and I did use the gel pen again to outline everything. It just felt like an outlining kind of day, and everything it just felt a lot more finished with the black line art. Really, I just used whatever tools I needed to get the job done, though I did stick to the box as much as I possibly could. But you probably noticed that this box does not come with a pencil, which can be quite challenging, though I did do this picture entirely without a pencil, so I'm quite happy about that. I like the bright primary colours of this one. Last but not least, I am using Disco Party as my prompt because I forgot there was one in the magazine, and I used a CD to draw a circle, and then I'm adding in alternating squares to turn it into a disco ball because that's the first thing that I thought of. And you can see I'm using a pencil for this one. There's no way I was painting it from scratch. It needed an outline, and after I'd done that I rubbed out everything a little bit just to take off most of the graphite, and here I go in painting the bottom layer. I wanted to paint them across loosely just to get kind of an underpainting and some abstract colour flow across the party ball. It does look like a flat disc. I did try to make it look more 3D, but not very well. So after it had dried, and you can see that big colour shift which happens on cotton paper, I'm now painting random squares with different colours from the watercolour set. And I just repeated this over the entire ball. I also used some white gouache from another Upcrate box because disco balls usually have squares of pure white with that light reflecting off them. I also painted the background in some sparkly colours and went over everything with that liner pen once more so that all three pictures are kind of cohesive with one another. I think this was my favourite out of the three just because it was really fun to do. But the finished painting is a bit wonky, so I might want to revisit this at some stage and spend longer painting a really large disco ball. Just a future arty idea. I don't know if it will ever happen, but let me know if you want to see that. I will link Upcrate in the description below so you can check out the boxes that they have. I'm pretty sure you can buy the back issue boxes as well as future ones, and I think you can still pay for 1 month subscription or multiple months at a slight discount. All of the information is on their website, which I've linked below. So here's everything I got done today in the box, and I did have the addition of 3 extra supplies, this pen, pencil and some white gouache, just to add a few little highlights on this one and to draw some outlines. But otherwise I really enjoyed the box. I liked all of the paints. I think it's pretty decent value for what it was, although I know their prices have gone up and possibly the value is not as good as it once was. It's the way of everything in the world at the moment, isn't it? I still am enjoying the upgrades, and hopefully I might get another one in the future, but if not, at least I've had fun with the 3 boxes that they've sent to me so far. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and click that subscribe button for more videos, and with that, I will see you in my next video. I hope you're all having a great day out there. Swatchy later, bye!